I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Thursday, August the 22nd, 2013. At least 3 and possibly 4 rockets were fired from Lebanon into northern Israel today. There were no immediate reports of injuries or damage, though several residents in the area were treated for shock. The red siren alert sounded in Israel's northern cities of Nahariya, Acre, and Kiryat Shimona, and residents reported hearing explosions. One of the rockets reportedly fell on the outskirts of a town near Nahariya, and up to 2 others reportedly fell in an open field near the area. And Israel's Channel 2 reported that Israel's Iron Dome anti-rocket system intercepted a 4th rocket. The IDF said it was looking into the incident and called on northern Israel's residents to remain in or close to bomb shelters or safe rooms. Meanwhile, IDF spokesman Brigadier General Yoav Mordechai said that according to IDF estimates, international jihadists are responsible for the rocket fire. He said the first identification of the rockets was a launch from the village of Kalila, south of Tyre in Lebanon. We assume representatives of the international jihad movement. The Jerusalem Post reports that senior Palestinian official Yasser Abed Rabo claimed today that U.S. peace talks envoy Martin Indyk and his team have not taken part in any negotiating sessions between Israel and the Palestinians, as they said they would. Abed Rabo was quoted by official Palestinian news agency Wafa as saying that the U.S. had not taken part in the talks because of the, quote, Israeli stance and demand, and further said this is a sign of how and where the talks are headed if the U.S. isn't able now to assert itself into the peace process. The PLO official further said that Indyk and his team were present in Jerusalem during the talks, but did not sit in on the negotiations. Meanwhile, PLO executive member Hanan Ashrawi accused Israel of asking the Americans to not be in the negotiating room, claiming she believed this way Israel could, quote, exploit their power over the Palestinians. Ashrawi told the Times of Israel, "We had an agreement on 3-way negotiations. The Americans from the beginning were supposed to be there. I don't see why the Israelis don't want the Americans there as witnesses," adding, "These are not 2-way negotiations." Israeli government spokesman Mark Regev refused to comment on Ashrawi's statements, saying Israel was bound by an agreement with the U.S. not to divulge the contents of the peace talks. French news agency AFP reported that 2 Iranian men were sentenced to prison in a Bangkok criminal court today for a botched bomb plot targeting Israelis in Thailand last year. Saeed Moradi received a life sentence for throwing an explosive device at police, and Mohammad Kazai was sentenced to 15 years in prison for possession of explosives. 3 bombs went off in Bangkok on February the 14th of 2012, the first apparently an accidental blast at a house that the 2 Iranians shared with an additional suspect. Another bomb was thrown at a taxi, and a third blew off the leg of Moradi before he was arrested by police. The day before that attempted attack, a bomber in Delhi, India, attached an explosive device to the car of an Israeli diplomat's wife, injuring her. That attack came hours after an attempt to bomb an Israeli embassy car in Tbilisi, Georgia. Following the attacks, Thai security authorities said they had discovered a direct connection linking the attacks against Israeli diplomats in Georgia and India with the Iranian terrorist cell apprehended in Bangkok. Israel police are investigating threatening letters sent to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from an imprisoned extreme right-wing activist. The prisoner, whose identity has not been released, wrote a letter to the Prime Minister in protest of the Palestinian security prisoners who were released by Israel prior to the beginning of peace talks with the Palestinians earlier this month. The jailed man threatened to hurt Netanyahu, just like assassinated Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was hurt. Police arrested the man and took him in for questioning. Ynet reports that Israel and Jordan are holding advanced negotiations over water exchanges between the 2 countries to help resolve water shortages in both countries and other issues. According to project outlines, a water desalination plant will be built in Jordan's coastal city of Aqaba, and Jordan will supply Israel with the product to be used in the Negev. In return, Israel will supply Jordan with water from the Kinneret to be used in Jordan's northern region. The sides are attempting to create an alternative for the outline agreed upon in the 1994 peace accords, and also to increase the amount of water that Israel supplies to Jordan. Gidon Bromberg, CEO of the Friends of Earth organization, who worked to tighten the ties between the two countries in environmental and water issues, said that creative ideas for the mutual cooperation should be welcomed, saying such ties between Israel and Jordan create a mutual dependency on regional stability for both sides. And Israel's Energy and Water Minister Silvan Shalom's office told Ynet that the project is being pushed forward and is in its advanced stages. And a group of Palestinian and Israeli researchers are working together to look into ways to purify water, removing medicinal materials from it. The team of researchers from Al-Quds University and the Technion Institute are working to assess the use of advanced membrane and biodegradation technologies to get rid of pharmaceutical waste from treated wastewater. The effort is organized by the Paris Center for Peace and sponsored by the French pharmaceutical giant Sanofi. Dr. Rafik Karaman of Al-Quds University's College of Pharmacy in Abu Dis told the Jerusalem Post that working together with the Israelis was a must. He said in order to facilitate and progress with the research, we need the expertise of the Israeli side. We can learn from them and they can learn from us, and this way you can do good research in Palestine. So far, the researchers have been able to completely remove all traces of certain drugs like cortisone, ibuprofen, and Valium from the treated water. Well, Israeli supermodel Refaeli is firing back at Roger Waters after the Pink Floyd frontman called for a boycott of Israel. As we reported to you yesterday, Waters called on his fellow musicians to not perform in the country and accused Israel of being an apartheid state. Refaeli, whose image is among those projected on the wall during Waters' concerts, tweeted in Hebrew yesterday that she no longer wants to be associated with the singer. She wrote, "Roger Waters, you better take my picture off of the video art at your shows. If you're boycotting, go all the way." The Jewish Week reports that the Jim Joseph Foundation awarded approximately $3.6 million in new grants to 4 institutions related to Jewish education. The San Francisco-based foundation awarded grants to George Washington University for a new graduate program preparing experiential educators in Jewish cultural arts, to the University of California, Berkeley's Institute for Jewish Law and Israeli Law, Economy and Society, to the Pardes Institute of Jewish Studies North America to support alumni programming for Jewish educators, and to the Institute of Southern Jewish Life for a fellowship program. The Jim Joseph Foundation aims to increase the number and quality of Jewish educators, expand effective Jewish learning for youth and young adults, and strengthen the field of Jewish education overall. And the Jewish Funders Network, a service organization for philanthropists, announced the launch of a Jewish social change matching fund last week that will offer $1 million to Jewish social change organizations and projects. The pool will match either first-time or increased gifts by new or existing JFN members to organizations that meet a range of eligibility criteria. Priority will be given to groups with annual operating budgets of under $5 million, who are doing ongoing projects instead of one-time efforts. Rabbi Rachel Kahn-Troster, the director of North American programs for Tru'ah, the Rabbinic Call for Human Rights, said sometimes really good justice work falls outside the specific funding priorities of existing mechanisms for whatever reason, and the fund will enable the donors who are funding that work to see their support magnified. JFN is offering the fund in partnership with the Jacob and Hilda Blaustein Foundation, the Morton and Jane Blaustein Foundation, the Nathan Cummings Foundation, the Naomi and Nehemiah Cohen Foundation, the Dorot Foundation, the Walter and Elise Haas Fund, and the Righteous Persons Foundation. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Thursday, August the 22nd, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader.